All right, so welcome to what's been a work in progress for a very long time. You're visiting with me about becoming an AI operations lead. I'm glad you're here. This is meant to be a working session. It's not a lecture. Looking for some interaction here to help work through a business problem of your own. And what we're going to talk about today is what I see as the safest move in AI right now. And it's not just learning the right tools. There's lots of great tools out there. Every single day, something else is coming up. But it's becoming the person within an organization that drives AI and automation efficiently and effectively. And that's a total new skill set that people are going to have to acquire to survive this wave of AI. So let's talk about two people, absolute same job, administrative, they're working in the warehouse, whatever it is, same role, same company, same skill sets today. In 18 months, one of them is going to survive. One of them is going to actually excel, and the other one may or may not be there, or may be in a completely different role that they may not want. The difference won't be talent, it won't be effort, it won't be tenure. It's going to be if they're able to embrace AI and automation and who waited or thought it was a fad and just going to let it go by the wayside. This isn't fear mongering. You can already look at it with some numbers that are out there. 40% of employers expect to reduce the workforce due to AI, where they can automate tasks, things like data entry, things like customer service, some things in there can be automated. Any organization, any role within an organization can be touched by AI and automation. We're going to share a bit of that. And that's to the World Economic Forum this past year. In 2026, AI became the leading reason for US job cuts, 15,000 in March alone. And so things are already changing out there, and it's no longer just going to be those that sit and wait. What does it look like in the future? By 2030, 92 million roles are expected to be displaced, but the flip side is it's not apocalypse. They're expecting 170 million new jobs to be created, but just like with the internet 30 years ago, those jobs are going to be very different. So it's a net positive result that we're seeing, or expecting rather. And I want you guys to be on the right side of it. So it's not this AI is taking jobs, it's AI is changing the jobs that we're doing now. All right, so this isn't a webinar. It's meant to be a working session. We're going to spend some time looking at an actual case study, and I encouraged you to bring your own business problems so that you could work through it with me in an example. But the whole goal is that you think like the role that you're here to learn about, learning the framework and the questions and the things that we do to help identify problems that can be solved by AI and automation, and that you found the fix. You may or may not know that today, but that's part of this exercise. And that more importantly, you can put a number on it, right? It just recommending a change or a solution doesn't really mean a lot to leadership unless you can justify the ROI. So you're going to leave with some proof that you can actually do this. All right, so why do I see this differently? And just a note on me, and maybe why you should listen to what I'm sharing with you, what I'm trying to teach. So I've had 35 years of different careers across a lot of different industries. The first 20 was in large brokerage units where I was part of new sales product development, launching major initiatives across national organizations, complex things that are financial like lending platforms, et cetera. So I learned to scope how to launch and run a business proactively. And by the end, I was running a team of 11 and had P&L responsibilities for $50 billion of a book of loans that ran across 4 products. I left, I got married, came back to Texas, and here I am. I started as a small business owner doing real estate. We own a hotel, we have a roofing company, home services. I dipped my toe into e-commerce, but again, the same fundamentals of running a business just on a much smaller scale. I jumped into AI 2 years ago. I could see how it could affect our personal businesses. I was not in the teaching mode quite then, but I wanted to learn these tools, started with ChatGPT, just like everybody else, but I wanted to see how these tools could help our businesses grow and scale and how I could implement them. I don't see AI as, shiny tools. It's not about, if you've got shiny object syndrome, this whole business is going to drive you crazy because every single day there's something going on. But I've really disciplined myself to figure out the tools that are going to be with us as long term as possible and how to implement them into our business. I've started doing consulting. I teach now for the Texas Real Estate Commission. I teach agents and investors how to use AI and automation to solve their business problems and to grow and scale. But I really wanted to get into the strategy of it. And I'm going to share a story in a minute about how all of this that you're listening to came about and why I think this role is going to be the next phase for us. So every company knows AI matters. It doesn't matter if it's a publicly traded company that is now feeling the pressure from their investors and their board about the hype around AI, and they know it can save them money, but they're not quite sure. So there's already discussions happening at that scale, down to the small business, the guy on the corner, the restaurants who understand that chatbots and AI voice agents, because that's a big focus of people trying to get into AI, can now help with customer service and answer general questions and even start scheduling appointments. So right now, AI across every organization is being used in some fashion. You're either using ChatGPT to write emails, you're researching information on Perplexity, you're using it to analyze data and spreadsheets that have to do with your role, you're building presentations on Gamma, like is what you're seeing here, you're summarizing meetings, you're drafting proposal, but that's a bit of a problem, right? If you're off doing your own thing, there's no overall strategy, but the biggest problem is it presents a lot of risk for the business owner, right? Um, some may be using client and company information onto these platforms that may not be secure. It may not be an overall strategy or align with the overall strategy of the business owner. And so when things get hectic and a business owner just starts throwing money at a problem like AI, the numbers say that it fails. 95% of AI and automation projects currently fail. And the reason behind that is there's no strategy. Somebody recommends the shiny new tool. They pay a lot of money to have it built or buy it off the shelf. There's no training. There's no overall strategy about why they're implementing it. They've not looked at the overall process, let alone the AI to fix it, but realizing that there might be other problems along the way that need to be fixed before the AI can even make any sense. And so that's what this role is about, is stepping into an organization and being able to be that beacon of the strategy, the implementation, and the adoption that comes with learning AI and automation. Which leads to who's owning this? Well, the CEO and leadership can direct the strategy, but they don't really know what's happening on the day to day, right? What's the customer service people doing? What's the department head doing? What's the receptionist and the bookkeeper doing all day long? They don't have that grounded touch. IT knows the tech and can implement AI and automation pretty quickly, but they have no connection to the actual business, the client experience, what will work and what doesn't with the processes that are already aligned. Marketing is very focused on client acquisition, right? But they don't really understand the back end organizational and processes that come along that might hamper them owning AI and automation. HR crosses the span, but that's not really their focus. So they're not necessarily knee deep in the overall structure of the business that can add value. And then you've got outside consultants, which are great, can come in and analyze a business problem, make recommendations, quantify it, even build the solve. The problem is it's one and done. They leave, they have no institutional knowledge, they don't know, the personalities very well, they're usually short engagements. So one and done doesn't lead to long-term strategy and adoption. And so the chances are in your organization that there isn't really anybody that is owning this. And that's where this role comes in. All right, so I want to share a little story about where this all came from and why I'm here speaking with you. So I mentioned that 2 years ago I jumped into AI to help our businesses. I started doing a little teaching because people, heard or saw that I was doing things around AI that led into some training for the Texas Real Estate Commission for continuing education. I love teaching. I did a lot of that in my banking career. But what hit home was a childhood friend of my husband's, and we spend a holiday with him every year. He's done very well for himself. He is probably 1 to 2 layers below the C-suite level of a multi-billion-dollar global organization in the tech space. They don't develop software. He runs manufacturing globally for this big publicly traded company. And I asked him, he questioned me about AI, and I said, well, what are you guys doing about AI and automation? And he said, well, my boss told me the other day that I am now in charge of it. This is the global head of manufacturing of a rapidly growing, still growing business. And his boss tells him, you're now in charge of AI and automation. And he said, I just turned it over to the tech people in India. They offshore a lot of their technology, most of their technology, and he felt that was the right place for AI and automation to be. And I questioned him about, shouldn't there be somebody on the business side kind of driving that conversation to make sure that what they build actually works in your processes here, fits the customer narrative across the globe for people that you're dealing with, and gets implemented and adopted. And he just nicely said, yeah, I'm going to just leave it to them. I don't have time to mess with it. And that's when I realized that, this role is already needed. If it's needed in a publicly traded company, it's definitely needed in a small to mid-sized business, right? Somebody needs to own this in a way that gets implemented efficiently and effectively. Spending millions of dollars to implement AI with no strategy that touches the business, the sales, customer service, and operations, really the fail rate of that is probably going to be substantial. So we were at a social engagement. I didn't press him on it, but that's where this whole conversation is coming from, is most training out there right now is tool oriented or teaching people to actually be exterior consultants to go into a business. I want to teach you how to be that person in that organization or train you to be the hire for somebody that needs that role in their company. And that's where the AI operations lead comes from. That's what I'm calling it. You might eventually see that under a different name. But this person helps lead organizations to identify, prioritize, implement, and manage the overall AI and automation initiatives that can create measurable value. What does that mean? What do they actually do? They're going to identify opportunities. That's really what we're going to talk about today, is the strategy part of it. They're going to evaluate the business value. So is it worth it? Are we going to save enough time and money to justify the time and expense that's going to go into implementing this AI and automation? They recommend solutions. That's a little harder of a learning curve. We're going to talk about that later on, but that involves you becoming aware, if not becoming skilled, at building or buying off the shelf capabilities from companies that have been around for a while. And a while in this business means a year or two, but be well breast in what's happening in terms of what's coming down the pike. But more importantly, can you build this? We're going to talk about that at length because I think you can. Uh, but they also lead implementation, right? It just like the consultant one and done, if nobody's there tracking accountability, scoping out the ROI and making sure that that's still a positive, that people are adopting this and using it and tweaking it and making it efficient and optimizing it, that's a longer term role, but the skill set can lead from department to department and problem to problem. But you become the person that makes AI actually work inside the business. All right, so this is where we're going to get into the work part of this. So I want you to think about one problem. Don't worry about AI and automation. Don't think about the tools. That's not what today is about. Today is about strategy and understanding and identifying a problem that can potentially be solved with AI and automation. So pick one frustrating business problem that wastes time, happens repeatedly, creates frustration for you or your colleagues or your customers, delays customer satisfaction. It could be a delay in a delivery of a product, a delay in a report, data acquisition, whatever that is. And it's actually costing you money. It could be hard money with labor and additional people that you have to hire to keep growing, or it could be money because you've shut off the spigot of marketing and sales because you are at capacity and cannot take on anymore. And so this is a couple of resources that if you should have gotten an email last night. If not, you can download the toolkit by scanning that QR code. It is a live PDF that will walk you through everything that I'm going to go through today, or you can just watch what I'm doing and then you can take that later and work it on your own problem on your own time. But I also created a page that will allow you to calculate the number. It's called an ROI calculator. Very simple, but it'll allow you to quantify the savings of this potential problem that you have worked to solve so that you can start to have the mindset of leading this charge and justifying the build to leadership. So let's use a real case example of a client that I'm working with right now. This is a bookkeeping firm. There's 6 of them. 2 of them are what you would consider owner managers. So they're running the show. They have 4 employees underneath them and some ad hoc folks that come in as needed. You're going to run the same questions through these problems to understand what's happening. She came to me and said, I know you're doing AI and automation. I need to understand what I can do to solve a problem. I got a big problem, so much so that it has completely shut off their marketing spigot because they cannot take on any new clients. The onboarding processes not working very well. It takes a long time. They don't want to put new clients through that initial bad experience. And it's because there's a bottleneck in their existing processes. And that has to do with documentation. As a bookkeeping firm, they have to chase down certain clients every month for documents. That could be statements, that could be copies of checks, information on those checks about how to categorize things. Some go directly by feed into their QuickBooks, but there are smaller clients who have small banks who may not have those connections. And so every month they go through the same process of chasing down documents from a group of clients, and a small group of clients are causing a big bottleneck. So how is this working? One person, Mary, is responsible for collecting documents. This is a company that has maybe 50 clients. This is not a big bookkeeping firm, and yet she has to hire one person whose sole job is to collect these documents from her clients. She's assigned that role, but because she's collecting documents, right, her success has a downstream impact because if she doesn't get documents in, the bookkeepers can't actually proceed with their work every month. So there's 4 people that are being touched by the lack of consistent documentation from clients. How often is it happening? At the beginning of every month, throughout the month, there's constant emails, constant reminders of what's going on. And as I mentioned, how is the business being impacted? Members are laying idle. They can't work if they don't have documents. There's no visibility into status. They can't take on new clients because of it. And so they're not able to grow. And the solution isn't always to hire more labor. All right, so what's the first step we're going to do? So we want to dig deeper. This is where, if you're a curious person and you really want to understand or like to understand how things work, this is where you're going to shine. You want to start digging deeper. You're not in solving the problem mode yet. We don't even know if we have a problem, right? She thinks she has a problem. We need to prove that and figure out what else in there do we need to pull out. And that's done by asking tons of questions and interviewing everybody from the owners, senior management, down to the receptionist, and in this case, it's Mary, the person at the lower end of the totem pole who's responsible for getting all of these documents and everybody in between as it makes sense. These are just sample questions. You're trying to figure out, tell me about your day. What does a typical day look like for you? How many hours are you spending requesting documents each week? How do you know which documents are still outstanding? Is there a dashboard? How are you keeping track of what's missing and what is needed? What happens if Mary's out of the office or she quits, right? She's the main source of work product for the rest of the team. And if she's gone, there's a problem. How much does Mary earn per hour? And what's the average revenue per client? So you're trying to start to get to this financial impact at the end of the day. But right now, you are just in info gathering mode. And on your sheet, you're going to see a section for you to start asking questions. And there's many more. It depends on who you're speaking to, but this will give you a taste of the things that you need to start asking. The questions that you're going to ask of the business owner are going to be strategy related, but asking him or her, what do you think happens with the role of your bookkeeper or the role of your document processing person? What is their perception about what is happening with their employees down the line? And then the same with the document prep person or the customer service person. What do you think the strategy is? What are the priorities of owners of the company right now? And see where there's a mismatch, right? That you're trying to get into where can you identify problems and start to solve them. The second part of this is you want to document your interviews. I would recommend recording them. Ask permission to say, hey, I'm going to record this so that you can engage and listen as opposed to taking notes. But that'll help you start to find the little needles in the haystack that might not be caught if you were actually just trying to listen and take notes. But you want to make this visual. You want to turn this into a process map, and there's many tools out there, a process map that shows where the bottlenecks are, where is the friction, where is the duplicative processes. So I know this is hard to read, but you'll get the gist just by looking at the color scheme. Yellow is a time sink, red is a big bottleneck, green is where you want to get to, and that's to get reports out to the client, and you want to map it and show it from there. And so what we found was happening is that one, the process to collect documentation was very manual. All emails, hey, can you send me this? They'd get the statements in eventually. They'd go through them. I need infos for checks 103, 106, and 17. Who were they written to? Because remember, there's no feed here, so you need to get manual copies of some of this stuff. How do I categorize it? What do you want me to put this under? And there was all this back and forth and purely by email. But the worst of it was the tracking. So Mary was actually putting her tracking method was a notebook. That's where she was keeping track of what was owed, what had been turned in, had she notified the bookkeepers by email that their documents were now scanned in, everything was made clear, and now they could go on with their work. So a big bottleneck. And there were also some other things that we found, but those were the big ones, right? And then you want to start, you want to have a secondary interview with the business owner. You want to clarify that the process that you have just documented aligns with what they feel should be or think is happening in their company. You just want to make sure that you have this whole process correct with them and the main players. She checked off on it, and then we start talking about evaluating solutions and cost, developing a roadmap to get there, and then figure out, do we build or do we outsource based on their budget? So being analytical, not just inquisitive and curious, you've got to kind of figure out where's the friction and can we solve it? So now that we've identified a problem, we have mapped it out, we've gotten the owner to sign off, the department head to sign off that, yes, this is correct. Yes, I've got a problem with documents. but we have also discovered I have a problem with payroll. I have a problem with tracking and visibility for all of my team. How do we start to figure out fixing this? How do we fix this? Well, everything in business, right, flows down to financially. Is it worth solving? And you want the curiosity to figure out about the problem. How do we measure it? So, what is the time lost per occurrence? So, in this scenario, Mary was spending 6 hours a week chasing down documents. The team, because she doesn't have what she needs to pass on to the team, they're laying idle for about 4 hours waiting on documents. Yes, they have other ad hoc projects, they're doing other things, but the point is that they're not doing the work that they were primarily hired for. This happens every month, all along, every day during the month. It's a never ending process. And you've got 4 people that are effective. So you want to start to figure out, okay, well, let's turn those hours into dollars. All right. Estimating the opportunity. So we already said that she's spending 12 hours a week, and 8 hours, sorry, 12 hours chasing paperwork. Two bookkeepers are sitting idle. There's hours in there. So there's 20 hours a week that's just being completely wasted because they're doing this very manual process. Now, as you get into this role and you start to understand how AI and automation can solve this, you start to realize, can you do away with a manual process altogether, or will it only take away 20% of the pain? For right now, we're just going to use 50%, just as a conservative blanket. And in this case, we would save 10 hours a week, 520 hours a year, and that would drop about $12,000 to $13,000 of recoverable time into her business to do other things. Now, what are the other things that she could do? She can redirect that time for other tasks. She can remove labor should she choose to, but her goal is to grow. And so now they can turn on the marketing spigot, obtain additional clients, and start to grow their revenue on the other side of that. So, all things being equal, they don't raise their expenses with labor. They've freed up capacity, which allows them to go acquire more clients. We figure it's about 4 to 5 clients new that they can bring on, and we would work on the onboarding process separately, but that would create another $15,000 to $18,000 of income coming in. That's about 10 to 20% of their annual revenue. So that's a win for this small of a client. You can see as you get bigger, the rewards are even bigger. All right, so now what? You've identified the business opportunity, you know the problem, you've estimated the potential ROI, and this is where a lot of people freeze. They think, okay, I can do the strategy piece, but I'm not a developer and we don't have a budget for tens of thousands of dollars. I have created apps in past years that have cost me $50,000, $100,000 plus, because I do not code. I do not have a computer science degree. And up until this point, we have been forced to outsource this. So how do you actually start to solve this? And this is the most exciting part of this presentation to me. And if you get nothing else out of this, take this piece with you. The walls for development have come crashing down in the matter of a year. So for decades, we were told, if you get a good idea, you're going to have to hire a developer. You could do it offshore if you want to save money, but developers are still expensive. People were told to go to college to get a developer degree, be a software developer. You'll always have a job. That's not necessarily the case anymore. The wall is now gone. Tools today like Claude Code, and others will allow you to build real software, real apps by simply describing what you want in plain English. Yes, you can set up, type in, or speak into a product like Whisperflow, and you can dictate to these softwares, I want to build an app that automatically reads a bank statement, automatically classifies based on history, pulls out checks that I need to know, creates an email that goes automatically to the client. Simply speaking like that into a computer and having some back and forth, you can create this software that will solve your problem. No code, no development team, no $50,000 budget. You can do this for 100, 200 bucks. And it's not just Chat GPT anymore. You've got Claude Code, you've got AI voice agents and chatbots. That technology is consistently getting better and allowing you to handle work autonomously. You've got autonomous agents like Hermes that can operate a business and substitute out for things like a chief of staff, a chief of marketing, a chief of sales. Yes, there's client interaction, there's humans that need to be involved, but the repetitive things that can be documented can generally be solved with technology now, and an agent can handle that on their own. And then you've got automation. So the workflows, the emails that are coming out to you when you signed up, workflows that tag people, that can do different things throughout the process of your business. All of that can be created simply by speaking into a computer. And so I'm going to challenge you to think about the most valuable skill in this whole AI wave is not writing code. I do not write a lick of code. I can probably get myself out of a little bit of HTML issues if I need to by using ChatGPT, but I am not a developer by any means. I don't want to learn it. I don't have any interest in it. But I can tell a computer what to build. That is a hugely valuable skill as these tools get even better and better and they start to integrate into our daily lives. But you can't recommend what you don't know exists yet. So what you're looking at is a visual that I presented to the bookkeeper of what her dashboard might look like. We're going to create a dashboard that allows a custom private link to go to each client we designate with customized panels for the documents that we get from them on a daily basis. They can upload it. If they don't do it by a certain date, a system sends an email automatically to remind them. And then the flip side is there's a very transparent dashboard for everybody internally that sees what's missing, and we can start to have some visibility into what's going on. But as you start to dip into AI and automation, you're going to see that these types of builds can be done simply. And here's some ideas about, what we would employ for her, but it is just a very, very small snippet of what can be done. This is just for this bookkeeping client. So modern natural language tools means that you can do this. It doesn't matter what your background is. There is a little bit of a learning curve on these tools, just like anything else. But once you get them set up and you learn the framework, the format of working with them, you're going to be amazed at what you can do to solve business problems and things in your own life. So I'm going to take just a break and kind of congratulate you, right? We walked through a front-end process at a high level about what strategy looks like, what an AI audit is going to look like. That's what you just did. You would walk into a company, perform this same process, and turn it back in with a report about what you found. Yes, there's more to this. It's a little more detailed than what you saw, but you have now thought like an AI operations lead. Did you notice we led with strategy? We did not lead with AI and automation. That's just the tools to solve the problem. You have to identify the problem first, and that's where the strategy AI audit comes in. Okay. All right. So this isn't just about learning AI, as I mentioned, it's about becoming the person that every organization needs. So let's take a step back and kind of see what's happening out there in the world of education and training and where you can figure out how to be that person. So you've got a couple of things. Traditional training, most of the people on AI, I listen to them, great content out there from people like Nate Herc, Liam Otley, Sabrina Romanov. All of those I'm a huge fan of. Great training, but a lot of it is very AI tool specific. How do you work on Claude Code? How do you work on Lovable? How do you do vibe coding? Again, tool specific, not strategy specific. So you're left to kind of figure out how do you do this. It's much more than prompting. So there was a huge initial wave of becoming a prompt engineer. Yes, learning how to prompt is key, but you can do that now with the help of these tools. It's a one-time course. So again, one and done. Things are changing so rapidly in this business. Every single week, products upon products roll out, the technology changes, a new model of LLMs come out that's even smarter than the one that they introduced last week. So it's always changing. They're technology first. You want to be strategy and business first. And the skills can become outdated, right? I learned about um, I'm trying to think of one that I would teach on. 11 Labs. Great, still around, still use them, but there's other voice cloning that's coming out. So skills like that can become outdated quickly. And so where do I think you come out ahead is realizing that this is a profession and the tools and the foundation that you build should be able to go with you anywhere, whether or not you're looking for a promotion, you're looking to become the AI lead in your organization, you want to do side jobs and do some consulting, whatever it is that you want to do, learning the fundamentals of this process and keeping in pace with what's changing as it goes down the road and how you can plug that in is a profession. It's a skill set. And so learning a proven methodology, kind of like what we went through earlier with identifying the strategy side of things and solving real business problems. That's a big one. A lot of the training is very simplistic about, creating a new image or a new game. So there's not a lot of training out there about how to solve real business problems that might be applicable to you. And so you want to be aligned with a place where you can get that kind of direction. Again, this should be able to go anywhere. If you learn strategy, technology, and leadership, you could go from department to department. You could become the head of AI for all of it, or move on to something that aligns with what you want to do. You now have a foundation to evaluate technologies with confidence. So you heard me say a lot of shiny object syndrome going on out there. You want to be able to look at these and say, yes, I can use this. Yes, this is a tool that's going to be around for a while. Yes, it plugs in and plays nicely with the things that I'm using on a daily basis. So that just comes with working long term with a path that understands that. And you're really a leader in your organization to implement all of this and adopt it, right? Just don't create it and then let it go. Human nature. Most people don't like change. And unless there's somebody rewarding them, reporting that change, celebrating the wins, but also noticing the ones that aren't, that's a true leadership role. And that's what you need to learn, is to make sure that it all meets that ROI requirement. And that becomes a long-term profession. So again, technology changes, but the methodology will actually last. So what about a consultant, right? So why can't a consultant fix this for you long term? I'm a consultant, so I'm just going to be honest and share this with you. I'm more than happy to come into an organization of any size and do this complete process. Okay. I can go in and run an audit from leadership down to the receptionist, identify problems and bottlenecks by department, if that's what you so choose, or overall in the company. I can recommend solutions. I can give you a proposal to build them, but then that's it. I'm done. Once I implement and I make sure that it's running correctly, unless you hire me, I am off to the next engagement. And so adoption really cannot stand still in this business anymore because the changes are never ending. It's becoming a necessary skill and capability that every company needs to embrace. And that's where you come in. It's not just one AI audit with one AI project. You sitting in the middle of an organization can now be that point person to say, I'm the one that can help you in your department, you in your team, you as a owner manager, whether or not you have an additional role and you have subsidized this with becoming the AI operations lead, or that is your sole role in the organization. That becomes a skill, a profession defining role that is going to be super hard to get rid of for the near future, right? Think about your organizations. How many people can stand up and say, I can do this, I'll take it on, and I know I can do it because I've been trained to do it. You're there long term. You have the institutional knowledge, the history, you know the personalities, you know the politics of how to get something done. And that combining all of that makes this long-term role even more valuable than a consultant. A consultant is going to be very expensive. You can adjust your compensation to take this role on, but still keep the company in the green for costs because you can build this yourself, or you know how to outsource it because you know what you're looking for. So let's kind of take a deep breath. You do not have to be technical to do this. Okay, you've heard me say many times that I do not know how to code. I just don't want to do it. There's too many ways to do this now where you do not have to outsource this to a developer. You describe what you want in plain English once you learn the tools like Claude Code to be able to do that, and you can build these tools. You've just done a high-level strategy audit, AI audit for a bookkeeper. You can now do this on a company because you have the framework in front of you via the PDF. So you've done that. You understand that mentality a bit. And my favorite is this is any age or background. I'll put that out there. I am 55. This is relevant for anybody. And I'm going to challenge you to say the ones that are teaching AI, are more technical in background, are younger. The ones that have the relevant business experience, who have been around the block for 20, 10, 15, 20, 30 years even, you have relevant, even more important skills because you can identify real business problems at the drop of the hat. If you're running a P&L or you're managing a department or you're a supervisor, you have a different viewpoint than somebody that can just plug in a technology solution. And so any age or any background can jump into this world of AI on automation now. Again, the walls have come down. And this is a business skill. This is a business skill. It's not necessarily just a tech skill. Tech is what we use to solve the problem, but the bigger cost savings and benefit to the owner is that you recognize the opportunity and realize how to fix it. So what's the history here? Why do I think, and many people think that, the opportunity has never been greater? So think about the internet 30 years ago, if you were around. Did you ever think that a website is a necessity back then, that it's your basic business card now? Everybody looks to the internet. Google would be around. Many people back then thought the internet was just a craze. It's a wave that's going to pass. Well, that didn't happen. And then you have cloud computing and cybersecurity. Again, things that had to happen to support the internet days. And that created a whole industry of jobs and solutions and people that could come in and create things. And now we're sitting in the time of artificial intelligence. We're creating the next generation of business leaders, and those that embrace AI can have a big role in this versus waiting to just let it play out. So every wave creates a new career, and the people that move early, they lead. And that wave is cresting right now. And the only question you have is, are you going to catch it or just let it go by? And that goes back to the first screen, right? Two people in the exact same job. One's going to be in a different place in 18 months than the one who didn't embrace AI and just kept doing their job the same way they have for the last few years. So how do you become this person? There's two ways. Basically, one is you learn it yourself. I mentioned that there are tons and tons of great quality education, especially around building tools. But if you look on YouTube and you try and pull out the necessary education out there to help you piece all of this together, particularly as it frames to your world, It's a full-time job. I do this full time. I'm constantly looking at YouTube, watching new videos, keeping up with blogs and newsletters, understanding what is happening, what's new, what's going to be long-term impactful to my business and the people that I'm working with. And I get behind. It's never ending. So if you have a career, a job, family that you don't want to take time away from, that's going to be a challenge because if you're new to this business, it's going to be really hard to figure out how do I pull what I need and focus on what I need to get to a place where I am good to go. Or you could join me at the ShiftSmart AI Institute. And I'm calling this the first professional institute dedicated to training AI operational leaders. And that goes back to my conversation with my friend who's managing a multi-billion dollar company, right? We all need to learn the strategy within a company, master the technology to either outsource it or build it yourself, and lead the business to a path of positivity and acclamation and adoption when it comes to AI and automation. And that's what the Institute trains on. So we're going to go through in the Institute, the 11-step operations method. So this is a repeatable end-to-end system. You're going to talk about, we're going to go through interviewing the stakeholders. How do you do that? How do you form your questions? Who do you want to interview? How do you start to frame that out? How do you conduct a good interview? Understanding the workflow. So how do we document this? How do we start making a visual roadmap about how this is working? And how do we start to think about the solutions that can fix those friction areas and problems that we've identified as bottlenecks? Then we're going to learn how to calculate the ROI and present it in a way back to leadership or a business owner that justifies the time and cost to implement this, whether you're doing it or outsourcing it. You're going to learn to evaluate solution options and keeping up to date with the new things that are coming down the pike and where you can spend your time and money. Recommending the technology, how do you do that? How do you ensure that it is secure and safe? It's been tested. It has the features and components that everybody who has a vested interest is on board with. And then you're going to figure out how do we integrate this? How do you train people on this technology? How do you develop a accountability roadmap? How do you document the success of implementation and optimizing it to continue to tweak and get better and get better and get better? Okay, so lots to do here in the Institute. So what does that really look like? So I've broken this up into 3 cohorts because some people may just want to learn the strategy side. Maybe you want to just be a consultant on the front end in your job, or you want to start something new. And you want to learn how to go through the AI audit process like we did, but at a very deep level. You're going to see the opportunity, you're going to build the plan, you're going to get the templates and the reporting structures and everything that you need to do or need to have to learn to high spot that AI opportunity and build the business case that gets buy-in. You may want to then jump into the enablement cohort. So that's designing the system, building the fix. If you want to jump into that, you're going to learn the tools. We're going to build it together. You're going to master the AI automation and agent tools that bring solutions to your particular need. And so that's a big one. That's the longest cohort because we're going to spend time on the technical tools and marry that to the strategy cohort. And then you can jump to the ownership cohort, and that is about leading, adopting, and approving. So driving the adoption, measuring the ROI, and owning the improvement inside the business. That full cohort system makes you an AI operations lead that you can take those skills anywhere that you want to go. So what do you walk out with? So this isn't just knowledge, it's tools and proof. My main priority is that you walk out of here with real project experience and a portfolio of completed work. That means everything from a full-blown AI audit on a business down to a complete build or implementation of a project that you can show off to on your resume as a proof of concept or work actually done with your business or the company that you choose to work with, as well as the adoption roadmap, and make sure that that is implemented. So very hands-on guiding of this whole process so that you have something tangible, not that you've just gone through a couple of classes, listened to me on a few calls. I want you to have something that you can really walk away with as I did this. You're gonna understand the pinwheel that I showed, the opportunity assessment method. So everything in that world is what you're gonna walk away with. How do you conduct all of that at a very in-depth level? Frameworks and templates, everything from presentations to implementation guides to how to develop SOPs and training materials, pitch decks, all of that you need to do, and do it in a way that's branded for you, right? Calculators and business tools. So, self-explanatory, all the things that you need to start to justify this, but you're going to learn to build them yourself, right? You may have a specific type of industry or business, and we're going to build those tools together so that if that's something that you need. Community and office hours. So I'm looking to make this a community that helps each other, lifts each other up, and want to make sure that that's part of it. And a growing professional network. So again, I see this as a long-term profession. This is not a one and done. And so that's what the Institute is looking for. So you'll leave with a measurable business value. And so think about what a consultant would charge to do this. So a consultant's audit alone would run anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 plus, depending on the size of the business. A full build plus the implementation engagement can be 5 to 10,000 to 30,000 up for an enterprise type business. I'm seeing some of those implementation projects, not by me, but partners that are north of $100,000 if it's a big enough company. And then they'll leave when it's done. So very expensive and very temporary. You're going to learn to do this yourself. So I've dripped on this, but I wanted you to understand, again, what can you do with this skill set? So you can become that AI lead in your company and own that whole process and be that go-to person that makes you indispensable. You can position yourself for promotion. So if you are in a job right now that you are worried that AI and automation is going to wipe out or change drastically, but you like your company, you don't want to go anywhere for whatever reason, creating and developing these skill sets will help you move into a role that might service the owner in some way drastically, right? So positioning yourself as the promotion to an AI lead operation, whether that's over marketing, over operations, over sales, or over the company as a whole, you're going to have a skill set to say, hey, I can do this. I don't see anybody else raising their hand. You can find a new career opportunity. So if you're not happy with the company you're at, you can develop your skill sets. You're going to have an actual portfolio of work that you've done. You could position yourself for a new opportunity out there for somebody that's hiring for a role like this. You can become a fractional AI operations lead. There are platforms out there that hire for fractional marketing officers, et cetera. You can become an AI operations lead on a fractional and have a different lifestyle. You can start your own AI implementation and automation business. So developing that whole skill set allows you to kind of go in and just do the build, do the actual enablement, if that's what you want to do, and focus in on that. You can partner with somebody to do the sales and strategy side. You could do more corporate training and enablement. That's where I want to spend my time. I want to train people like you. I want to train people in train businesses as a whole. And so that's where I'm building the Institute to go. You can freelance remotely. There's Upwork and Fiverr and all kinds of other platforms that you can start to shop for temporary or full-time projects that need this kind of capability. You can just do the assessment and operational audits. We talked about that. Still a nice way to make a living is just doing the audit side and then outsourcing that to somebody else. Or you can do a full-blown AI consulting business because now you have that whole skill set. So lots that you can do and walk away once you have this. So who is this for? You are a problem solver. That's the primary thing. If you like to find problems and you like to solve them in some way, you will excel at this profession. You are curious by nature, so you're interested in what's happening within the organization, interested in what's happening in AI and automation. You are just a curious person about how things function. You will do well in this profession. You are detail oriented. So you saw the process map. You're going to get a deep dive into the questions and how to pull, cherry pick, and pull out the things that are important. You're going to do well in this profession. You can handle change or even thrive in it. I love change. I constantly want to be learning new things. But if you can handle change, you will excel in this profession, especially with as fast as AI and automation is changing every single week. You have to be able to handle change. And you don't want to be left behind. So you're sitting there wondering how my job's going to be impacted. What am I going to be doing in a year or even a month? And you want to be part of the solution to that and not just sit and let it happen to you. You're going to do well in this profession. You want to level up your AI skills, but you're not really quite sure. Again, we talked about the thousands of YouTube and other educational materials that are out there, but you're not really sure what your options are, and this speaks to you. You'll do well in this profession. You are a leader or you want to become one. So sometimes becoming a leader means that you want to be comfortable with what you're putting up there. Maybe you don't have natural leadership skills, but you need that confidence and that knowledge level to take a step up, and then you're fine. That's how I work. I don't do well unless I understand how something works. So if you want to be a leader or you are already a leader, you will do well in this profession. And you're willing to learn new things regardless of age. I talked about that before. You are not too old to jump into this. As a matter of fact, I think the more experience that you have, you will do even better in this profession because you have that history, that knowledge, and the way a business works. You know how to identify bottlenecks and then you're going to learn how to solve them. All right, so let's get down to what this runs. So this is the very first cohort. It's going to start on August 4th. Doors will close on July 30th. I'm doing a founding member program. So the first 25 that sign up for the full package are going to get lifetime access, which means that any additional training, any additional updates on new products and things that are coming down the pike, access to the community for forever, personal coaching during the sprint, during the cohort season. Again, we're going to do your personal audit. We're going to help you build your solution, the technology piece, the enablement. You're going to have somebody that's going to hold your hand and make sure we get it completed, and ownership, help you develop that roadmap, etc. There's no rolling admission here because it's the first one. I want to take a group of students through this intact. So if you miss July 30th, then you're going to have to wait for the next cohort. And I don't know when that will be because it depends on demand. But right now, join us August 4th, and you'll be with us through the program. So I did this two ways. You can tear off strategy as a first cohort. If you're not sure, that's $897 founder price. And then you can move to enablement later on if that's what you decide. You want to continue on and pay for that then. Or I'm offering a launch special, all three cohorts for $26.94, and you can pay that in 3 payments of $997. That will get you the full 3 cohorts, everything involved, lifetime access, and personal coaching. So the full path costs less than the first 2, so you actually get a lot of bang for your buck. Okay. Your risk is 0. This program is new. I'm putting it out there. You don't know me yet. You can check me out on LinkedIn and see my skill set and what I've done over my years. So I'm not asking you to take the risk. I'm going to take the risk. And here's the guarantee. Join either way. You can join the strategy cohort on its own or the complete path. Just simply show up to the live sessions and do the work on a business case, your own or somebody else's. If you don't walk away with a usable AI opportunity assessment and a clear plan that you can put to work, just ask me for a refund and your money is going back. You have 30 days or through the completion of the strategy assessment, whichever comes first. The reason I say that, it's a new program. We may end up going 45 days for the first session. I want to make sure that everybody gets what they need. So you have a guarantee that at the end of that strategy assessment, 30 days or however long it takes, if you are not completely satisfied, you just ask for your money back and it is yours. I'm not here to take anybody's money. I want you to get actual value and I know you're going to get it. So to wrap this up, the door closes July 30th and the cohort plans to start August 4th. So there's no fake countdowns here, no rolling admission. The founder's perk, remember, pay the $26.94 upfront. You're going to get personal coaching on your project build and lifetime access. I'd love to do this for everybody. 25 is a lot. We're going to see how it goes. But after that, spending time personal one-on-one might be a little too much. This is as low of price as I think it will ever get. It's cheaper than a college semester, learning something, and it's going to work a lot like your college cohorts and semesters. So the best price, the best perks, the only door right now, all of it for $26.94 with no risk on your side, and you get it back if you're not happy. So imagine 1 year from today, every organization, somebody's going to be asking, can anybody help us solve this? And that person, without hesitation, should be you. You should be saying, I can do this, let's find out, because you know how. And so I want that person to be you. So become a founding member. Here is the email or the URL to enroll. You can pick the payment plan. You can pick the one cohort and get started and get your toe in the water, or you can do the whole enchilada at $26.94 and you're with me for the next 4 to 5 weeks, 4 to 5 months rather, with a lot of personal hand-holding and continued access to me forever in the school. This is going to be a school-run platform, so you'll get lots of information about that, but that's where we will connect and start to have some conversations. So unless you have any questions, I'm going to thank you for your time. I hope you got something out of this. With the resources, at least, you'll have something to chat with your owners about. If you do have a company that might be interested in this, please send them my way and we'll go from there, okay? Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I look forward to visiting with you on August 4th.